Hi everyone, we are here with our career pathway guest, Jelayna Carasquillo, and she's here to tell us a little bit more about her job as a paralegal. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So like she said, I'm Jelayna. I am a workers' compensation paralegal at Tayback Law. This is a job I've been in for about a year now. So I'm ready to talk about whatever you want to talk about. That's all I really got.
Okay, so you said that you have been at your job for about a year, so that means that you started someplace else. Can you give me an idea of how you transitioned over to this job from your previous job and maybe what that previous job was?
For sure. So my background mainly comes from retail and retail management, so completely different from where I am now. So what I did in retail, so I used to work at Goodwill, so it's a very different dynamic than working in an office. So with coming here to Tayback Law, definitely was a learning curve, but the biggest, I guess, advantage for me is that they were willing to train on the job. So with that, I just presented myself as a very coachable person. So with that leading into here, so even though I've only been here a year, there's definitely a lot I'm still learning, considering my background is completely unrelated. But the new challenge has definitely been worth it.
Okay, and so what are kind of like the characteristics or the personality that would make a good paralegal?
For sure. So it's a lot of still like customer service, because all of our clients that we talk to and handle their cases daily. So that's a lot of what I was able to bring to the table with coming to Tayback Law. So I would say, it's a lot of customer service, a lot of organization, attention to detail, because you're combing through, like medical records, billing records, and obviously the confidentiality of our clients, and that the cases that we take are injured workers. So these are their lives that we're dealing with. Like, yes, they're just clients to us, but having that personable and empathetic nature as well.
Okay, and so what would you say that you needed in order to, or how do you become a paralegal, I guess is my question.
Yeah, so there's a couple different areas. Like me was a little bit more unorthodox. I didn't have the background in it. And the way I ended up in this career was more of the networking side of things. I knew someone who did work there and was able to vouch for me in the sense of, like, I did have some other skills like customer service and approachability and things like that that helped me land this job. The other avenues are as well, you can go to school for legal studies and to be a paralegal. And I actually was able to look it up. At METC actually has a program. You can get an associate's or you can get a bachelor's. So there's definitely, so if you wanted a little bit more formal training or going into those bigger law offices that may want either experience or the education behind it, that's definitely another route.
Okay, and so is there like a pay grade of whether you, let's say, didn't have any educational background in that area versus like an associate's versus like a bachelor's degree?
I would say there is, especially depending on the firm that you go to. So I'm at a smaller firm, so with them having to teach me, I came in at a little bit lower rate than maybe somebody that did have that educational background. And I also believe that there are definitely different positions within being a paralegal, as in, so you have your base level paralegals, and then you do have like senior paralegals and management paralegals. So I believe with those educational backgrounds, you may be able to come into one of those higher positions kind of from the get-go.
So what is the difference between like your base level paralegal, like senior? I'm sure it's like maybe more tasks that you're taking on, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so with at least for workers' comp, so my firm is pretty small. It's just myself, the other paralegal, and the attorney. So for us, so like my coworker, she's taught me everything that I know. She does handle a lot more tasks, like when it gets closer to like hearing level, when it comes to dealing a lot more with like defense attorneys, where I'm more client based, she's more on the more technical, I always call it more important ends of things. So it definitely is difference in tasks, and a lot of times it is managing other paralegals. So it's kind of having that responsibility of not only the tasks and duties that you have to yourself, but making sure your team or whomever it is you're supervising or managing or overseeing are also on top of it as well. So definitely more responsibility.
Okay. Is that something that you feel like you may want to do in the future? Like gain more education to enter into the higher levels?
Yeah, that's definitely something that I would be interested in, especially with, like I said, our firm being a little bit smaller, that, you know, this is a company I can see myself growing with and having that opportunity. And I feel like with like legal studies and going to school for paralegal work, it can probably be like a little bit repetitive as I've been in it, but like I said, if I ever want to have that opportunity outside of experience to maybe move to another firm or look at other opportunities, I kind of have that as cushion in my background as well.
Okay, cool. What would you say is the most interesting part of your career?
I would say, in a nutshell, like just the amount of people you meet, because like when I'm talking to people, I am in a very unfortunate position where they're talking to me because they don't want to, in the very sense. They've been injured at work, and work comp kind of, in a nutshell, to kind of get a grasp out of what I do specifically. So if you're injured at work and you file your workers' compensations claim, and part of that is like, you know, work comp is responsible for paying your medical expenses and, you know, things relating to the injury, and say work comp denies that claim and cuts off those benefits. At that point, you'd want to retain an attorney to appeal those benefits. So the people that are coming to me aren't the happiest, needless to say. So just really kind of showing them that we are here for them and kind of fighting with them, because like I said, they are in, you know, a very unfortunate situation. So kind of being able to be a little bit of a light in their lives, kind of a little bit of hope, even though it's like, yeah, there's a long road ahead of us, but you know, we've got your back.
So I guess going back to that, I just forgot what my question was. Let's see. Oh, wondering, like, so you said like it can be like a person that doesn't necessarily want to talk to you. Like, have you ever encountered any just kind of stressful situations with like a person who is interested in legal services, and then how have you handled that?
Yeah, that's definitely come up more often than not. So I would say, you know, being able to de-escalate would definitely be a skill set that you would want in this line of work, even though, you know, in the sense that the side that we're on is the side of the client. You know, we are making sure they're getting all the benefits that they want. So we're not the bad guys in the sense. But you still get people that they're genuinely upset, and understandably so. But for example, I had a client call me, and so I do a lot of what's called intake. So I filter through our free consultations that we offer, and see if one, answer any questions that they have, or two, see if that can, you know, they are a potential client. So the potential clients, usually in this scenario, are like, you know, they've got their claims denied, and a lot of times they want to, like this week actually, they want us to like reinstate benefits, which is unfortunately something we cannot do. All we can do is recoup the benefits lost in a settlement amount at the end of their claim. And clearly that's not what everybody wants to hear if they're not getting income now, or if they're not getting, you know, they don't have insurance to cover medical expenses. It's a rough position to be in. And you know, it's me just explaining to them that we can definitely help. These are benefits that we can, you know, recoup, but is in essence that a recoup, you know, for, you know, at a later date, until we can build our case. So explaining to someone who's, you know, basically needs somebody to let out their anger and frustrations on. It's kind of being a little bit of a punching bag, but still redirecting that conversation to be like, hey, you know, we definitely want to help you, you know, and what we do is definitely do a lot of research into resources as well for our clients to find energy assistance, food share, state insurance. We try to get them as many resources as we can to help them during this time, in addition to obviously getting them the settlement that they deserve. So it is definitely, you know, it can be frustrating on my end, on the receiving end, but, you know, how often, as dramatic as it seems, like people falling off a roof, you know, doing construction work,
Yeah.
and then your claim gets denied, I would rightfully also be very upset. So it's definitely kind of putting it into perspective and reasoning with them and kind of letting them know, while not, you know, sugarcoating the steps in the process of what we do, but also letting them know, like, hey, you know, we can't do this, but this is what we can do, and like, let us work with you. You know, we definitely want, you know, you are in our best interest.
Yeah.
And the way with like workers' compensation law works in Wisconsin, the attorneys can't get paid until they do. So it's a risk-free kind of deal, because at the end of the day, we want to get your claim done as fast as you do.
Right,
If you
yeah.
want to think of it that way, you know. But we do definitely have the client's best interest in mind, because, you know, they've been, like I said, they have been put in a very unfortunate situation, and I can feel for that.
Yeah, for sure. And so you said one of the things that you do are intakes. What other type of tasks do you do throughout the day? And
Yeah.
does that change from week to week, or is it like a standard task that you have to complete?
So intake is something I do daily.
Okay.
So basically we get what we call new leads come into, so we have like an electronic format of like a dialer where it tells me who to call, when to call, and it's nice and done for me. I just
Yeah.
make the calls. So kind of a call center setup if anybody has any background experience in that. So, you know, I call it, so basically they put in an inquiry somewhere online, or they can be referrals from other firms that don't do work comp, they do other things, and refer them over to our firm. And like I said, we always offer free consultations, so people could be calling just to get questions answered about what are the benefits. Like, I don't want a lawyer right now, or I don't know if I need one, you know, but what should I be expecting from work comp? Because a lot of people don't know about work comp until they're in that situation, which also makes sense. So that's why we do offer what we do. So I go through and I make, you know, several calls a day trying to see if, one, if we can help them, or two, just educating people on their benefits. If I do end up signing anyone, or, you know, signing them on for representation, so we go through the process of getting all the details of the injury, how it happened, when it happened, what's the work comp carrier's information, so all of those details, because it is kind of initially, you know, a he said, she said kind of situation, so we want to make sure we do have a full detailed background on the client's side of their story. So once intake is done, I would say on average we probably sign, I would say maybe like 5 to 10 clients a week, depending. And then after intake, it's all of our current clients. So, and then communications with defense attorneys and whatever, you know, if there's anything with the Department of Workforce Development. So typically my day is current clients, so I follow up on treatment updates. So I'm reaching out just saying, hey, you know, you saw Dr. So-and-so today.
Yep.
Are you at the end of your treatment? You know, kind of getting that, you know, a feel for that, because then we do a lot of like what we call the gathering evidence. So our evidence is the medical records, the billing statements, we send forms for doctors to complete, basically disagreeing with work comp, saying, nope, this injury is work related to this extent. So then I'm calling, you know, doctors' offices, you know, the medical facilities, release of information departments to gather all of these records that we need to support our claim. Outside of ordering records, then it is completing like a breakdown of all the billing records, because we want to make sure the client gets reimbursed for co-pays, or if they, you know, it's a cash-only facility, we really want to make sure every single dollar is taken into account for our clients. So we complete like I said, a breakdown of those billing records. And then at that point, I do hand it over to the attorney, and that's where he creates his demand, saying, okay, our client's claim is worth X amount of dollars. You know, this is what we're demanding. And then from there, we can hopefully reach settlement, which at that point, my job is done.
Yeah.
It's all on the attorney. You know, he, you know, will draft, you know, compromise agreements, all the final documentation. If for whatever reason, say, we can't reach a settlement, the defense also believes they have a good argument, at that point we will go to hearing. And if we have to go to hearing, then my task can range to filing different documentations we need to say, hey, we're ready, you know, to go to court. So there's just basic forms that we fill out for that, so I can take my time doing that. And then communications with the defense attorneys or law firms, because then they also need to gather their evidence, so that requires signatures and documentations from our clients. So it's a lot of paperwork and a lot of communication and a lot of back and forth. But like I said, these are people's lives we're dealing with, so we always want to be very diligent and you know, pay attention to all those details.
How do you keep up with all of this? Because like you said, it's a lot.
It's a lot, and you know, especially when we have in work comp, I would say about almost 500 clients.
Wow.
Yeah, so thankfully we have a software that we use that can basically, I'll print out a task list. And I can set tasks, so that way, like, I'm not in my own head, like, I consider myself an organized person, but I'm surely not that organized to keep track of 500 clients and where each of their claims are. So every morning I print out a task list, and because I'm OCD a little bit, and I will highlight, like, prioritize my task list, so that way, say at the end of the day, if, you know, I can't get to something specifically, you know, I can make sure it's my priority for the next day. But the task list is very helpful, and having that organizational tool has been a lifesaver, because if I talk to a client on one day and they say, okay, well, my doctor's appointment is in 4 weeks, I don't need to remember 4 weeks from now that I need to follow up with them. I just set my task, and then when I print it that day, it says call so-and-so to follow up. So that is honestly half the battle, but you do have to manage your time, because the goal is to get your task list done at the end of every day. So if for whatever reason, you know, say you don't get that done, you know, it's that time management portion of it, so you're definitely gonna wanna talk to, like, your supervisor and have, you know, that open communication there as well, to say, hey, if you feel overwhelmed, because it is easy to get overwhelmed, there is a lot of stuff that we do, but I think the more, it's one of those things too, where, like, that's not gonna be something you learn in school, it's gonna be that get your feet wet, learn on the job kind of deal, because, you know, you get on the phone with a client, you could be on that call for 45 minutes. So it's really kind of, you know, having that customer service, but also having that time management and that prioritizing and realizing, okay, we gotta wrap this call up.
Yeah.
Or, like I said, it definitely takes a knack to it, but it's definitely doable. It's definitely, you know, I guess maybe not easy, but doable.
Yeah. So speaking of having to manage all of this in the small amount of time, how many hours do you typically work a week?
So I still stay within 40 hours.
Is there, like, overtime or anything? Or?
Yep. Yeah, definitely as needed. It's not a continuous overtime, but if I do feel like I'm falling behind, I just get my approval from the attorney to say, hey, you know, I've got X, Y, and Z to get done, and it's usually approved, but there's definitely an issue if I'm constantly asking for overtime. Then it's a reflection on me of, why aren't you getting these things done, or are you indeed, in fact, just there's too much work on your plate. But like I said, it is definitely an evaluation of, you can't just continue to get overtime if these tasks are manageable throughout the week. So,
and I don't know if you know of kind of like the range of how much a paralegal makes.
Yeah, so it's actually a pretty large range, and I think it definitely depends on the size of the firm that you work with. So I can see, I've seen it start from like $14 an hour, and that's like your very base rate of absolutely coming fresh out of the waters. And then it can go all the way up to like 22, 25. And that's gonna be based on like that educational background, the experience. I feel like for me in my position with coming in, I definitely, started off, but like at this point with the progress that I've made in my work ethic, I've been able to kind of, make my way up in terms of monetary amount based on my ability to work and kind of take on this new role and learn very quickly. So I guess it depends too. It's like, it's not always, I don't want to say schooling isn't important, but it's not the only way to make, a significant more amount of money as well.
Right. And I think it's important just for our young people to understand that.
Yeah, because it's not the only avenue. Like, it's definitely helpful, and I believe that if you wanted to pursue it, it'd definitely pay off. But if that's not your cup of tea, there's definitely you make up for it in terms of work ethic and skill and really putting yourself out there.
And were there any barriers? I know I'm jumping around a little bit.
Yeah.
But were there any barriers that you faced in getting to becoming like a paralegal?
For sure, it was definitely the fact of I knew nothing about work comp or anything legal whatsoever. So that was definitely, I think, on my side, because like I said, I did know somebody that did work at the firm, so that networking did help me, I would say, pretty significantly, but at the same time, I still had to interview and do the whole process, so I feel like my mindset really had to shift to say, like, okay, even though I don't have any background studies in legal studies or paralegal work, what can I bring to the table, and kind of leveraging the skill sets that I do have. So the customer service, the empathy, the work ethic, the accountability, coachability, being willing to be a sponge and learn if they're willing to train. And so, okay, so that got me through the door. I got in, and it was hard learning legal studies coming from a retail background. Like, even though I'm like, yeah, teach me. It's like, is this English? So it definitely took some time, and I would say I don't think I really started doing work on my own until about maybe 3 to 4 weeks out, and that was just making the call. That was just doing the intake and being comfortable enough just to be like, hey, these are the benefits you're entitled to. What is screening for a potential client? So it was definitely a learning curve for me, but I really had to be willing to push through all the doubts, or get past the point too where you're doing intake, and these are just regular people. They don't ask you questions that that you learn on the sheet. So they're just like, okay, well, what about this? And you're just like, well, can I put you on hold? But you know what I mean? But it's just, I was very grateful to have a team that I could constantly ask questions to, because if I didn't ask as many questions as I did, there would be no way I'd probably still be here today. Because like I said, every situation can be unique, but learning it was definitely difficult, but it was definitely worth it. It was just one of those things where, like, I knew it coming into it. It's not like I came in thinking, okay, well, I know how to do this already. So I came in with that humble mindset, and I think that's what kind of helped me kind of get past the difficulties of it.
Do you think that there is any interest in law, like, past, like, the paralegal, like, field track? Like, do you think, like,
me become a lawyer?
Yeah, I mean, is that a question that you get asked, like, a lot by people?
I do.
Is that something that...
I've thought about it. I've been told I make a good defense attorney, whatever. I don't know if that means I'm argumentative but I've definitely thought about it. I guess it's just, I think the most intimidating part would probably be the schooling that would come with it. It's the undergrad, and then law school and the bar. And I don't know, I guess it would be one of those things where I'd have to look into more. But at the same time too, I guess, like, at this point in my life, I'm like, you know what? It still feels like that would be so far away. But I definitely have the interest, but it's one of those things too where it's like, I also see my boss do it on the daily, and it's like, okay, and he works all of the hours. I know, some people think, oh, lawyers, they, like, no, like, he's definitely dedicated to his craft, and we'll see.
Okay, that sounds good. Let's see. I'm trying to think of, is there anything else that we haven't already talked about that you would like to mention about being a paralegal?
I think being a paralegal is, like, it's a lot more, I think, customer service than people may realize. Like, yes, there's a lot of paperwork, but everything on all paperwork is going to require communications with clients. So it's definitely not just, like, an office job where you're like, okay, well, I don't really want to talk to people, I'm not great with talking to people. That's definitely a skill set you're really going to want to have in addition to that empathy, because as often as we deal with clients that, like I said, are very frustrated and in very, very, unfortunate circumstances in their life, and, mainly, usually mentally and physically, depending, and it's it's definitely having to have an understanding for that, because it's easy to get on a phone call and you call someone and then they're upset from the get-go, and it's easy for you to not even think twice and be like, well, I just called you, or you know, but having that second level of empathy and realizing that these people are in positions that you wouldn't dream on your worst enemy, because they didn't choose it either. They were going to work every day like we all do. So I feel like that's definitely a skill set and even a characteristic that people definitely need to keep in mind with going into this work. It's a lot of paper pushing, but it's a lot of communication with the clients, and the better that relationship is, one, the more favorable conversations you'll have in the future if you can maintain those relationships, and then in addition to, if you from beginning to end you have a client that is comfortable and had a positive experience, then there's that word of mouth and getting other people into the firm and creating more clients that way as well.
So I guess another question I have for you is, if you could do it all over again, would you pick, like, because it almost seems like workers' comp picked you rather than you picking like the area per se.
Yeah.
Do you think that you would get into like a different area of law, or?
I'd be interested in it. Our firm right now does work comp, Social Security, and veterans benefits.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Of those three, I definitely enjoy work comp the most. But more on the end of like doing more legal on the side of like maybe like there's like, I mean, the laws in everything, real estate, personal injury, so I think I'd be more on the sense of like real estate. I would be interested in that as well, because there's so many avenues you can take with, being a paralegal. If there is a lawyer for it, they will need a paralegal. So whatever area of law there is, there's definitely the option to be a paralegal. And then it's definitely, personal preference as well. Like, I enjoy being on the side of the client, of the injured worker. Like, I don't know if I would, maybe like it as much if I was on the defensive end of things. So I think it's all about, and some people, that wouldn't bother them. But like, this is something that I enjoy, and kind of like, even if I'm not having a great day, or, I just got off the phone with a client who, was upset, at the end of the day, it's like, what, nope, that mindset, and kind of being like, no, we are here, we're helping them. We're doing the right thing, and I think that's a big part of why I do enjoy what I do, because, like I said, I'm a people person, so it is nice to be on the good side of things. It's like I guess I can call it, but something I wanted to share that I actually forgot about earlier under most interesting part of my career. Maybe not the career itself, but a skill set I didn't think I would have developed working. Again, this is again specific to work comp. But now I know a lot of like the actual names to like injuries, and like I know so many doctors and which facilities they go to, and everyone's like, "Oh, well, I've got a shoulder injury," and I'm like, "Oh, do you have a torn rotator cuff?" And they're just like, and I just know these things now, and I'm like, or they're like, "Oh, I have to go and do." Get some nerve testing done. I'm like, oh, so your doctor sent you for an EMG? And like, it's just things that I just would not have thought I would know.
Because to be honest, I didn't think when you said that you worked in workers' comp that you would be talking to doctors and like
and we're constantly in communications with their doctors, because honestly one of the main important parts about our defense is what's called a 16B form that we have their doctor fill out, and it's literally questions that say, do you agree this injury is work related? Everything is the doctor's professional opinion, so they have to have a good relationship with their doctor, and it's really about relationships with everyone, and obviously the actual legitness of their injuries, but we have to maintain these relationships with the doctors and their staff as well, because if they don't fill out this form,
that's true,
we don't have a case. And that's what's the most, I guess, not frustrating part, but definitely holds a lot of weight, because then I'm calling these facilities and I'm like, hey, I'm followed up on this form from this doctor, and then they're like, the better relationship that I have, or if I call, if I send this to this doctor most often, or whatever the case is, and I know the assistant, or you have those relationships, that networking, they like you like them, okay, well, here, I'll make sure yours gets done, or so it's definitely worthwhile to have those relationships. And I'm constantly talking to medical facilities, and it's definitely intimidating when they're like, okay, I have to talk to the doctor themselves.
Yeah.
And it's like, not to tell you how to do your job, but if you can please get us this form. But usually, you know, and if it's outside of my scope of what I'm normally used to, I'll set up a time for the attorney to talk to him, because the attorney can sometimes sound like a doctor himself, because he's constantly looking at, you know, because as crazy as it seems, you know, there's a monetary amount assessed to each body part for work comp.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's, you know, it based on the value of, you know, I guess that's how they determine the value of settlement. You know, each body part, as morbid as that kind of sounds, is worth, you know, X amount of dollars. But then, you know, it's, you know, not all doctors are used to filling out forms for work comp. You know, they're just your regular primary, or, you know, so it's definitely, we've come across those challenges too, where doctors are like, hey, I'm willing to do it, but guide me, you know, and, you know, we're obviously more than happy to, we deal with this on the daily. We understand they don't, maybe this is the first time they've gotten one of these. So, you know, we definitely always try to do what we can, whatever extra effort we can put in to help our clients. We're definitely doing that. Yeah, because it's, you know, and then sometimes you know, my clients will ask me, well, what do you think I should do? Do you think you know, like asking us for medical advice, and I'm like, we're not your doctor. But at the same time, I can always think in my back of my head, too, I'm like, your doctor did an x-ray and not an MRI? Why, you know what I mean? And it's just always just like fun back and forth with our clients, because it's just like, you know what, like I said, we always have their best interest in mind, and I'm constantly learning new things. Yeah. And, you know, we do a lot of, like being a part of a smaller firm, we do a lot of networking events with work comp. Okay. So a lot of the things that the attorneys would just go to, he gratefully lets us come along. So we actually get to, and he's like, well, you guys are the ones talking to these people.
It's true.
Every day, like, you know, so it's nice to put faces to names for me, because then it's like, okay, you know, when I'm talking to certain doctors, I'm like, okay, I know you, or I know, you know what I mean? We have that connection, and I think that's half the battle. And, you know, whether you're looking for a job and you're going into a field you don't know, or, you know, you want more opportunity, it's all in who you know, and that's going to carry a lot of weight, is putting yourself out there, as scary as it is. But if I wouldn't have reached out, like, you know, and if I wouldn't have known someone too, maybe I wouldn't have, you know, found this career here, you know, being a paralegal. Yeah,
and I think, like, this is a good opportunity for people to hear more about it. I mean, like, you're really, you're doing a lot of work that I didn't realize that, you know, you just hear of the lawyers and, like, the work that they do, and not to say that they don't, but, like, you're really providing a lot of information for them.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, there is a lot to it, and like I said, it's nothing you can't learn, and I think that's with any job, you know, unless you're being a doctor or a lawyer where you need any, you know, certifications. Like, don't be afraid to apply any previous skill sets that you have to anything new, because, you know, change is good. And I definitely learned that, and I don't regret my decision at all. Like, I can't say I miss retail. But like I said, as long as I always tell people, just be a sponge. Be willing to learn and be trained, and you know, take critiques, and you know, and really be able to implement them, and you know, always, you know, prove yourself in your work, because as much as you can say you did X, Y, and Z, and until the numbers prove it, or you know, whatever line of work you're in, you know, it's better to show yourself than tell yourself.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like we can end there.
Okay.
So thank you again to Miss Carasquillo. I had to keep practicing. I got it though. We appreciate you providing us with a lot of information, and hopefully, I guess one thing before we leave, there are probably a lot of opportunities for careers, especially now since everything is opening up and kind of booming due to what's going on in our country right now.
Yeah, I would say definitely look around for it, and a lot of places are willing to teach due to, you know, having a little bit of a shortage of employees, and all these opportunities are here. I would definitely reach out, and like I said, if you know, go into the interview and tell them, like, hey, this is what I can bring to the table, and whatever I'm missing, I'm willing to learn. If you're willing to teach, and it's kind of hard for them to say no to that, because I can say, well, I'm not going to teach you, you know, so definitely put it out there. But I would say, you know, go on Indeed or any of those job searching websites, or if there's, say, a firm you want to, Tayback Law is hiring, feel free to go onto their website, go under careers, look at what they're posting, you know, and at the same time, you know, at the very end of the day, if you go in and you do an interview, you got practice, you know, but it's definitely taking that step forward, and I think now is the best time to do it, like you said.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.